Welcome to the Upgrade Your Education Business podcast. I'm your host, Sumantha McMahon, and today we are tackling a topic that I'm working very closely with some clients on, creating digital courses for passive income. Passive income sounds pretty dreamy, doesn't it? Well, it's entirely possible, and today I'm going to guide you through ways to do it in a way that really suits your business, in a way where you're creating a digital course that really suits your audience's needs, and of course, in a way that fits your unique business style. We'll be looking at ways to set it up for long-term success, and remember, there's no one size fits all, so we'll be exploring lots of different options. So if you've been toying with the idea of creating a digital course, but you're not really sure where to start, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Upgrade Your Education Business podcast. I'm your host, Samantha, and I'm so pleased you're here. As an education business owner myself and a former teacher, I understand the nuances that only apply to us. So in this podcast, I share fluff-free, tailored and actionable ideas that you can mould to suit your needs. If you'd like to take this conversation further, please do reach out. I would love to meet you. And finally, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review. That way, you'll be helping me help more people. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy. Before I start, I'll quickly tackle the potential elephant in the room. Can anything, or is a digital course, truly passive? Now, of course, you do need time to create it. You might spend time promoting it. So you could argue that it's not completely passive. However, I'll still use that terminology because I know most of you understand that. That's what we refer to it as. So just so you know that I'm aware that it may not be totally passive, but we'll call it that for the purposes of this episode. So with that in mind, let's dive into the fundamentals of how to bring this to life. The first thing is to really think about why you want to create it. In fact, you need to know why you're creating this digital course. And I mean outside of your desire for a passive income. So if you've pressed play on this, then I don't need to convince you of the upsides to selling things like digital courses. But for it to work, your audience need to know that they want it. And you need to consider this. Where does it sit on the shelf of all the other different things that you may offer? Who is this for? And what position are these people, are your target audience in? Now, I know that these questions sound like I'm prompting you to do a traditional target audience exercise, but there's actually a slight shift with this because I want to prompt you to think about the exact position your target audience are in. So, for example, let's say you're a fully booked private tutor. Is the purpose of this course something you can offer people who want to learn with you, but you can't say yes to them? Maybe you're fully booked, or maybe it's a cheaper option and that's what they want. There's a market for that. Or is it something you're creating to support your existing students? Or is it something that you want to sell so that you can really reduce your tutoring hours? All of that makes a difference to carving out the ideal solution, the ideal digital course, because the things that sell the most successfully are the things that are laser focused on the problem that they're designed to solve. Now, you may have heard the adage, appeal to everyone, appeal to no one. So instead of trying to be everything to everyone, think about how you can really solve specific problems for specific people through your course. Who is your course ideal for? Here are some ideas just to get your thoughts flowing. You could say that your course is designed for any GCSE student who wants to refine their creative and transactional writing skills. Your course might be designed to support Key Stage 3 students to help them master the skills needed to top up tuition or to top up what they're learning in school. Maybe your course is designed to take people through the 11 plus journey, maybe without a tutor, so they can do it independently. So pause this episode right now and just play around with some ideas of your own. Get creative about it. Now, when you shortlist an idea, it's time to move to the next step. And that next step is understanding your audience and your course format. Now, before you even start creating your digital course, it's crucial to think about who your audience is and what kind of course they would be receptive to. This is where many people go wrong. They dive into content creation without really thinking about the format and what would actually work best for their audience and for their subject. So, would your audience prefer a self-paced course where they can move through the material by themselves in their own time? They like that flexibility. Or maybe a live course with a real-time element, some real-time sessions perhaps, where they can interact with you and their peers. Maybe a blended approach is needed, combining self-paced materials and a live element like Q&A sessions. That might be the sweet spot for your students. Let's take this example. Let's say you're working with busy parents who want to support their children's learning. They might prefer something that's quite flexible, like self-paced modules. But if your audience is full of students who crave structure, or they need something live, they need some access to you, then a live or blended model might be more suitable. So, to really get to know your audience before you make any decisions, try and observe, try and test the water, maybe trial a little sample, maybe speak to your clients, mention it in discovery calls, get as much feedback as possible so that you really understand what people need. I did this with the Tutors Mastermind and it was invaluable. My original idea for the mastermind was to release 1 or 2 videos a month. People would pay a subscription, kind of the Netflix model, so to speak. But when I spoke to tons of people, and I mean tons, all my one-to-one clients, people in discovery calls, people I just generally knew, all of them said, I really love that idea. I love the idea of dipping into what I need, but I really feel like I need a live element from you. I need something that's live. And so that's how I actually totally changed my idea. It now blends both of those concepts. But I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't actually spoken to people. So it's really important to get other people's feedback. The point is, we do want to take ourselves into consideration because this needs to be sustainable for us. But for it to sell, it needs to be palatable to the people we're selling it to. So we need to tailor it for them, we don't only want to do what's easiest for us. So with my tutor hat on, when I think about my Key Stage 3 or my GCSE students, a self-paced course I don't feel would be all that popular because at those levels, the experience I've had is that parents are a little bit more hands-off. They don't have as much involvement with the academic side. So it would really rely on the student being motivated and self-directed. Whereas when I think about my 11 plus students, their parents are a lot more involved. In fact, they want extra material so that they can support their children outside of tuition. So something self-paced, something that's very flexible would actually work really well for them. So please don't skip this step. It's a really important step. For something to sell, it has to be appealing to the people who are buying it. It has to work for them. They need to feel safe to buy. If it isn't, if there is a misalignment, then it will be really hard to sell. It will be like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Now let's move on to finding the right course topic. You now know what kind of angle you need to take based on the position your students are in, and understand what format will work based on your audience. It's time to get specific with the right course topic. The key here is to either go super specific with a topic that you can promote at, say, specific times of year. Think seasonal, like exam periods, or related key educational milestones. Or you can choose something that's evergreen. An evergreen course is relevant all year round, and you can continue to promote it as a solution to an ongoing need. For example, if you were creating something for GCSE students that really focuses on exam prep, then that's ideal during exam periods, and you could promote it during that time. However, an evergreen course could be something like how to improve your writing skills, which is valuable regardless of the time of year. So here's a crucial tip for you. If you're going seasonal or specific, you have to make sure that your marketing strategy aligns with those specific periods, those key moments. Promote heavily in the months leading up to, say, exam season or school transitions. If you're evergreen, the beauty is that you can create marketing funnels that just operate all year round. Next up is step 4, which is naming your course for maximum impact. Now, this might seem trivial, but it's actually important because it's one of your sales touch points. The name is a really easy opportunity, a quick win for people to know exactly what it's about without having to do the research and having to dig a bit deeper. So your course name should do a couple of things. It needs to clearly target the outcomes or the impact that your audience is looking for. And if you're offering something specific or seasonal, it should meet people exactly where they're at in that journey. If you want a little bit more on meeting people where they're at with your marketing, then have a look at the YouTube link in the show notes because I did a free session for the Tutors Association over the summer that might help. So let's take an example. Instead of a generic name like exam success course, think about framing it as something that's outcome focused. Something like acing your GCSE maths in 12 weeks or confident public speaking for teens. The name should make it immediately clear what your transformation is, the transformation and the impact your students will experience. If it's a seasonal course, then your title should reflect that urgency. Last minute GCSE crash course, for example, a back to school writing skills boot camp. You may even want to reference specific grades, like how to go from a grade 4 to a 5 in the last 2 months before the exams. So when you're thinking about the name, it's all about connection. You want people to feel like your course is the exact solution to the problem that they've been experiencing, the thing they've been searching for. So think deeply about what your audience needs, the pain points that they face, and how your course actually solves that particular problem. All right, so you've got your topic, you've got your angle, you know what kind of format you're going to go for, you've even got a name. Now comes the actual building of the course, and this is where it can feel overwhelming. So I'm going to give you a suggested breakdown so you can keep this manageable. We don't want this to create overwhelm. Step one is to outline your course and start with the end in mind. What's the transformation you want your students to experience? Then chunk that transformation into modules or into lessons. It's always easier when you have an end goal in mind. Think of it like a GPS. Unless you put the destination, your GPS can't route. They can't chart your route, can they? They can't give you the directions. The second step is to decide on your delivery method. Are you going for video lessons, audio, maybe downloadable PDFs, or a mix of everything? This is your chance to really play to your strengths. If you're comfortable in front of a camera, then go for video. If you're not, you could stick to what feels natural. Remember that the value of what you deliver is far more important than how glossy your production skills are. But of course, you might want to step out of your comfort zone and do something like video content, even if that's not what you would naturally do. But just bear in mind your time frames. If you're happy for it to take a bit of time for you to experiment with different things, then explore, go outside of your comfort zone. But if you really want to get this created and launched as quickly as possible, it might be easier to really play to your strengths than to do what you already know. Remember that you can do that without compromising the quality of what you're delivering, and you can always add to it later. If someone buys a course and you add videos to it, for example, they're never going to complain. And step three is to choose a platform to host your course on, whether it's Teachable, Kajabi, Thinkific. There are so many options. I mean, there are some email marketing platforms that you can make work as well if you want to do it almost like an emailed video series. But I do think using a learning management system like some of the ones that I mentioned is really useful. I actually use Kartra, but I used to use Thinkific. And I'll pop a link to Thinkific and Kartra in the show notes if you want to play around and try it for free. The reason why I think it's useful to use a learning management system is because they are specifically designed for this. So you have tools and you have data in there that will really help you. For instance, you might be able to see where people are up to in the digital course. You might see what their engagement is like. You can add little tools in there, like they have to complete a quiz before they can unlock the next module. So I really would recommend it because you don't want to focus your time ideally on a load of admin as well. You really want this to run itself if you're aiming for this to provide passive income. And so when you use a learning management system, a purpose-built system for this, you can automate things like taking payment and enrollment and expiry if it's not a lifetime course, for instance. So have a think about what you want to use, play around with some software. I will provide some links in the show notes to get you started as well. Now, once you've created it, of course, you need to promote it. You need to think about marketing. And this is where you can have some real fun. It's really worthwhile putting a strategy together. And that's just a fancy word for a well thought out plan. Now, I would always advise first leaning on your existing audience, your existing network. It could be an email list, a social media list, it can be current clients, it could be parent friends, it can be teacher friends, just people who are generally in your world already. And start talking about your course nice and early and often. People need to hear about it multiple times before they're ready to buy and just generally to generate that excitement before you've even gone live. But here's the golden rule with your marketing strategy: focus on the transformation. People aren't just buying your course, they're buying the result. So, how will their life, how will their skills, their grades, how will all of that improve because of your course? Always keep that front and center. So, if someone is thinking of taking your course as a replacement to tuition or as an alternative, well, they don't have to worry about making it to a tuition lesson on time and rescheduling if they can't make it. That's the beauty of, let's say, a self-paced course or even a course where there's a live element, but you record those for replay. And don't be afraid to offer a freebie. A short freebie like a guide or a mini video series is a great way to tie into your course topic and give people a taste of your expertise and the general experience of learning with you. It's a real fast track to building trust. And of course, it can replace things like discovery calls, which you may want to do if you're trying to be as hands off as possible. Now, I'm very intentionally avoiding giving you a step by step kind of guide to creating a strategy because how you do it will depend on your preferences, the type of course you're offering, and so on. But one thing I would definitely do is talk about it before your launch. Build up some curiosity, build up some excitement. Now, lastly, let's talk about how to make this as truly passive as possible. You've built the course, you're marketing it. How do you create something that just sells while you're busy with other things? Well, to make it as passive as possible, you really want to look into automating your marketing. This doesn't have to be in the form of things like paid ads. You can even automate organic marketing. You can set up email funnels, social media scheduling, or even evergreen webinars that run on autopilot. So that way, you're constantly bringing in new leads and you're bringing new eyes onto your course 24/7 without having to be too hands-on. You may want to even play around with paid ads. However you do it, make sure that you have the customer journey mapped out. If you're in the Tutors Mastermind, I've shared the link in the show notes that are specifically designed to help you map your customer journeys really fast. The second thing you want to think about as an ongoing thing is to keep improving your course and ask for feedback. The better your course becomes, the more word of mouth referrals will bring new clients in, the more valuable it will be. Now, to make this sustainable, I would really advise choosing specific periods of time when you're collecting feedback. So it might be once a year. You do a big bit of improvement once a year, maybe once a quarter, maybe twice a year. Either way, choose something that you think's really manageable for you. Remember that the type of passive income or the version of passive income that we're talking about doesn't mean zero work. It just means front loading the effort so that you can reap those long-term benefits. And there you have it, the beginnings of a roadmap to creating your digital course for passive income. The beauty of this process is that you can tailor it entirely to your strengths, to your business, and most importantly, to your audience's needs. If this episode got your wheels turning and you're ready to create a course, but you need some guidance, reach out to me. As a business trainer for tutors and education business owners, helping you develop new ideas is my passion. This is what I love. So let's chat and let's make this digital course a reality for you. Thank you so much for staying with me and giving me your time. Please do leave a review if you have a moment, and you'll hear from me on Wednesday. Would you like to take this discussion further? Perhaps you have some questions or you'd like more ideas on tailoring your business. If so, book a free discovery call through the link in the show notes.